Hey, here's Judy D from judyd'sworld.com. Today I'm here to present a tutorial on how to create a winter hat, scarf, and glove set. So I'm wearing mine right here. So if you want to create a winter set like this one, grab your pattern. It doesn't have to be that one. As long as you have gloves, a hat, and a winter pattern that you want to use, grab that and let's make a set together. So for my set, I am using McCall's 4681, which is this pattern right here. I actually use this pattern as a base. I did not do exactly the same thing. My hat is a little different and my scarf is really basic. I wanted my winter set to look a little bit more modern than what you see on this envelope, so I kept it simple and added a couple of details that will make it more 2019 appropriate. So if you want to sew that with me, stay tuned. For this tutorial you will need your fashion fabric. I'm using this beautiful textured fleece by Fabricville. It is so soft. When I saw this in the store, I knew I wanted my winter set to be made out of this beautiful fleece. You will also need a tape measure. This will be used to measure your head circumference so you can select your appropriate size for your hat. You will need your matching thread. I'm also using a rotary cutter to cut my fashion fabric. I also have this pom-pom. This was suggested by one of the Fabricville staff member, and I think it's a awesome idea. So you will need your marking tools, good scissors, a sewing gauge, and your seam ripper. You may need a point turner like this. For my specific fleece, this lint roller was a lifesaver because it was shedding a lot. You will need pins or clover clips. It may be easier to stabilize fleece using pattern weights, so if you have, grab those. So in terms of pattern pieces, you'll need your toms, pattern piece, back and front. You will need pattern piece number 7, which is the lower back of your gloves. You will need pattern piece number 8, pattern piece number 16, pattern piece number 10. All of these are for your gloves. Then you will need pattern piece number 11 for your hat and pattern piece number 12 for the scarf. First thing we're going to do, we're going to stitch our scarf. So it's two big pieces of rectangles. So what we're going to do, we're going to lay them right side against right side. We're going to stitch all around, leaving an opening so we can turn it right side out after sewing most of it. You may want to choose to use one of those lint removers around if you choose the same fleece that I chose here, which is very messy. So I'm going to just keep using this until I get rid of all the lint to make sure that I don't mess up my old sewing room using this fabric. I went ahead and used clover clips to put my two fabrics together, right side against right side, and I used them all around my big rectangle. I'm going to be sewing all around using a 1.5 centimeter or 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, and I'm going to be leaving an opening about halfway the longest size. I'm going to leave this open so I can pull my scarf right side out once I'm done sewing it all. So my machine is set up at a 3mm length. I'm going to be using a straight stitch, and I have here a stretch needle. It's a 91 because this is thicker, but feel free to use something smaller if according to the fabric that the fleece that you've selected. I also have my walking foot set up on my machine. It was already set up like this. If you have a regular presser foot, use that. Now that we have sewn all around the scarf, it's time to trim those seam allowance a little bit and then to turn the scarf around using the hole that you left in your fabric. So I'm going to stitch very close to my edge. So now let's work on our hats. So I'm working on Add View B. Depending on the view you're working on, it may be slightly different, so make sure you follow the instructions. For view B, what I have to do, I have to create darts by joining those two edges together, those two together, and those two together. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So remember, we had circles to transfer to our fabrics, so we're going to stitch from the small circle here to the other small circle right here. You may want to put a pin so you remember where your circle is. Now it's time to sew a garter stitch from the small circle here to the small circle right here. So now that you're done stitching your garter stitch at the top here, you may want to do the same thing to the other side. So the patterns suggest to do this after sewing the side seam of your hat. I'm just thinking it's going to be a little tricky to do that after you've closed the side. So I went ahead and stitched it the same way we just did the top. I did it to the bottom part of the hat, so we're still on the reverse side. We did it at the top. I did it again at the bottom. Stitch your garter stitch around here, and then you're gonna have to pin the side seam here all the way down the side of your hat. You pin from the small circle at the top here all the way down to the bigger circle here. Then you leave a space open so you can turn your hat right side out and start pinning from the big circle here all the way to the smaller circle here. Now that we're done stitching, as you can see, there's an opening here. I'm hoping my fabric won't be too thick for this small opening. We'll make it work. So we're going to trim the seam allowances a little bit, and then we're going to pull the gathers so this hole at the top here is closed. So I'm done trimming. I realized I almost skipped a step. So what you need to do, you need to stitch the top of your hat, so where all of the darts meet together so it stays closed. So let's do that right now, and we'll be right back to turn the hat around. And then just like we did before, I'm gonna edge stitch my opening. So let me find the opening somewhere. So it's right here. I'm gonna put it together, pin it together, and edge stitch this hole close. And I'm not gonna be worrying about this showing up. I'm gonna keep this side inside of my hat so it won't show. Alright, so we're done sewing the hat. So what we're going to do, we're going to push the bottom side toward the top. So we have a nice hat like this. So now it's time to install the pom-pom. As I'm looking at it now, I don't think I'm going to be using snaps to install it. There's a little elastic here. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to try to put my finger in it. Here, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this as an anchor point, and I'm going to stitch around this and attach it to the hat. Now it is time to work on our gloves. So I pulled out the lower back of the glove and back of the thumb right here, which does not have a number. Well, it does have a number, it's number 6, but it's not written on the pattern piece. So we're gonna have to pin, matching our small circles and big circles. You can't really see it because the contrast is not good enough and it's furry. So grab your thumb pieces and you're gonna pin right side against right side. So for the gloves, they are suggesting a zigzag stitch. So I'm going to switch to my zigzag stitch. And I'm going to go for a width of 1. We're going to put this aside for now. And we're going to pull out pattern piece number 8 in my view, or it's called top A. You have 4 of these. We're going to grab 2 and we are going to do a narrow hem on the bottom edge here. Okay, so both pieces are hemmed. So now we're going to grab the other 2 pieces that are not hemmed and we're going to pin them to one of the hem pieces. So now it is time to attach the bottom back to the top here. So you're going to pin those like I did on this side here already. So now it's time to attach the upper back of your glove to the back of your glove, the rest of the back glove. So I've done it already here. So this is what it looks like. So you want to flip your back glove over, fold this down, and pin this piece right here, which is called the upper back, over here. So now that we're done sewing that, we may need to remove some of this thickness of the fabric right here, so I'm gonna trim. So now we're gonna put this to the side. So now we're gonna grab the front of the gloves and we're gonna go do a stay stitch all around this curve right here. Now grab the front of your thumb pattern piece. Now that we're done attaching the front of the thumb to the front of the gloves, we will clip into the seam allowance to make it smoother. I don't know if you can see here, we have some wrinkles. It's not laying flat, so I'm going to cut through the seam allowance to release it so it lays flatter. Now we're going to sew the front and back gloves together at the side seam here. So I've pinned the first one already, so you're going to sew all the way down here. On the other side, on the thumb side, you will sew from the top to where your thumb starts. So here, you're going to stop stitch here, and then you're going to start over under your thumb all the way to the bottom here. Okay, so we're done stitching both sides. You may want to check before sewing your thumb that this still flips up and that you didn't cut it while sewing your side seams. Check it on both gloves. If everything's okay, it's now time to pin your thumbs so we can sew it in place. So you're gonna pin. It is now time to stitch those fingers on your gloves. On my fabric, my stitch lines disappeared, so I'm gonna have to go ahead and trace them again. So these stitch lines that you see here, you need to make sure that you can see them on your fabric, because we're gonna be stitching on the stitch line and then we're gonna be slashing the fabric so we can separate our fingers. I went ahead and my gloves. So the last thing we need to do here is to snip in between your stitch lines so you can separate the fingers. So be careful not to chop all the way to your seam. You stop right before. And here's the moment of truth. We're turning this around. So using my little tracing marker, I'm gonna push my fingers through. So we're all done. Let me try it on for you guys. Here we go.